The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Magnet 360's webinar on knowing when to use Field Service Lightning or Lightning Scheduler. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning. I know it's super early for some of you, including some of our presenters, so we really appreciate the early wake up and joining our educational webinar first thing in the morning. Especially considering the circumstances in the US and around the world. We really appreciate the time and attention that you were able to carve out for us, and we hope to make this a super interesting and compelling 45 minutes for you. So quick little intro of our presenters. We're not going to go around the table and have everyone speak, but you can get a feel for everyone who's going to be presenting on the webinar. My name is Alex Roberts. I'm a senior solution architect with Magnet 360 and the FSL practice lead at Magnet 360. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for a long time and have had the pleasure of working with everyone on this webinar over the past few years on various field service Lightning engagements and now Lightning Scheduler engagements. A special thank you to our two Salesforce guests, Natasha Janik and Beth Kohlhauer. Thank you so much for joining us and for being a part of our wonderful presentation here. A quick little overview of our agenda. We've been through the introductions. We will allow the Salesforce presenters to do an overview of Field Service Lightning and talk about their sort of general strategy around Field Service Lightning and a customer story there. Same thing with Lightning Scheduler. And then we'll move into some Magnet 360 customer stories around the FSL product and Lightning Scheduler product, along with some key insights as to why we chose one product over the other on a specific engagement. And we'll end with just a few other additional Magnet 360 FSL successes and quick starts, and followed by a quick Q&A. So without further ado, Beth, I'd love to hand it over to you to talk about Field Service Lightning.
Great, thank you so much, and thanks again to everybody for jumping on today. As we look about comparing Field Service Lightning and Lightning Scheduler and better understanding which product you might want to look at first based on which use case, thinking about Field Service Lightning, this is really Salesforce's field service solution. It's all about helping our customers who have those use cases where they're going to need service resource allocation and scheduling with parameters. So when we think about parameters, this could be anything around who has certifications, who has the right skill sets, availability, preferred resources, et cetera. Being able to take all those things into consideration and being able to schedule the right person for the right job and really optimizing those travel routes as well. We look at the kind of use cases that people are using Field Service Lightning to schedule for. You have maintenance, break fix, inspections and installations, and also servicing. So this could be for businesses, this could be for residences, going out, anything from doing a servicing of an HVAC unit, for example. As we talk about optimization, this, as we note, in many cases, is a huge value add. And it's important to realize, too, that optimization can mean many different things to many different people. For many of our customers, they're really looking at getting off of manual paper processes into a system. And so for them, it's more about optimizing their business processes. Here, we're also talking about, though, how Field Service Lightning can help optimize the schedule. And this could be optimizing the whole schedule so that you're maximizing utilization. But then you're going to have a dispatcher who's doing exception management throughout the day, and they might need to do in-day optimization or re-optimize an individual resources schedule because of things that come up. Someone's running late, someone's out sick, there's a job taking longer than expected. So optimization is often times something that really comes into play, and having that dispatcher console that the dispatcher can then manage exceptions throughout the day. With that, I'll hand it over to you, Natasha.
So Lightning Scheduler is Salesforce's appointment booking solution where you're able to schedule resources, whether that's an employee or something like an MRI machine, a car to be test driven at an exact time to meet with customers either virtually or if they travel to a branch or office. And some of the use cases here can be, scheduling multiple people in a single appointment. As I mentioned, you can use it to book assets, what we call assets as well. So those are, non-employee resources that can also be booked in a single appointment. And some examples of this include scheduling, multiple resources at a retail banking branch and then having to add a conference room into that appointment. And what Lightning Scheduler also enables you to do is allow employees to optimize their time. So maybe it is being used at a doctor's office where the doctor needs to see, 3 patients in a single time frame. That can be optimized right in Lightning Scheduler to ensure that, they're servicing the maximum amount of patients that they can. So a really good way that I like to think about Lightning Scheduler is that if a customer is traveling to an appointment, even if that's virtually, you would opt for something like Lightning Scheduler. But as Beth said, if it is a service that is being taken to a customer, then Field Service Lightning would be the better option.
Great, thanks, Natasha. And I think one of the key things that you touched on there too is that idea that while both of these are scheduling solutions, it's not just for people, that it could be for various assets. You mentioned a conference room. In our case, it could be for a crane or another piece of machinery. So really being able to factor in all those different kinds of resources that need to be scheduled. As we jump to the next slide and take a closer look at Field Service Lightning, we talk about this being all about elevating field service experiences. And for many of our customers, as we work with them, what they're focused on is they want to be able to provide that amazing customer experience, but they also look at the experience for their mobile workers as being just as critical. So they're really trying to elevate those experiences for both their internal and their external customers. We talked a lot about that with Field Service Lightning. It's all about sending the mobile worker out into the field. So if you think about it, that mobile worker is really the face of the brand. They're representing everything else basically that the company has done up until that point, and they're going to really be impacting that customer experience. So you want to arm them with all the information they need to do the job. Oftentimes we hear about offline needing to come into play. And then also another key thing to really elevate that experience for mobile workers is by being able to automate processes so that they can do things on the mobile app and really being able to minimize the time that they're spending on administrative tasks. We've had customers that the mobile workers were actually having to spend more time on the administrative tasks than the actual work they were doing. And these are valuable, expensive resources, and they want to really be able to help them focus on the things that are most important, that also they most enjoy. As we also talked about the customer experience is key. If we can go back to the previous slide, thanks. And one of the things that's really valuable with really any of the solutions on Salesforce, but in particular, we're talking about field service, is that connected experience. And here we talk about really being able to connect that entire service journey from the first interaction to the last mile. So if you think about a customer who something breaks, well, they need a way to be able to report what has broken. So they're going to be calling into the contact center. They're going to be going to a community. They're going to be reaching out. That agent's going to be troubleshooting. And then when they can't solve it, they're going to be then creating a work order and dispatching it over to the field department. So having all of that on a single system is going to really be able to provide that seamless experience to the customer. And we really want to overall enhance the field service operations. We talked about the different things that come into play with scheduling. We touched on optimization a little bit. Really being able to enhance the operational side of the business. So again, the dispatcher, other people involved with the field service process can really be focusing on what's most important. And we're able to create that consistent experience across departments. So as we jump to the next slide and we take a look at how one of our customers are doing this, I wanted to talk about Stratasys. So Stratasys is a 3D printing company. They were really focused on the importance of trust. They knew that the relationship that they had with their customers is critical, and that was really going to be built on trust. And as they started to see the 3D printing industry around them continuing to speed up and grow, they really felt that the customer experience was going to be just as important as the product quality that they were providing to really maintain their competitive edge. So for them, what they wanted to really do was not just connect service and field service, but connect it with the sales side as well, so that internally they could have a consistent process across the company, and then this would result in that high level of customer experience they were driving for. So they had their sales that was brought onto the system globally and then connected to the service department as well as field service. On the field service side, well, the service side overall, actually, what they wanted to be able to do was offer a variety of channels for the customers to be able to seek help. They had a number of the opportunity coming through the community, through other channels, so that the agents could try to help their customers. In the case that they needed to actually do an on-site repair for one of their machines, they had a fleet of dispatchers and technicians globally, all using FSL to be able to get the job done efficiently. One of the key things that we touched on briefly was having all that information in the mobile worker's hand. And so that was really key in being able to impact the experience they were giving their customers. And the offline capabilities were also very critical with this. We talked a little bit about the administrative time that many of these mobile workers are having to spend doing jobs. And for Stratasys, they were finding that after they did on-site visits, mobile workers were having to spend about 25 minutes just to wrap up the job. And now they've been able to actually automate that and get that down to less than a minute. One other thing that I think is fantastic, we always love what our customers are doing to help their customers. And this time that Alex touched on, that the United States, the world is facing, one of the great things that Stratasys is doing is they're actually trying to help out with the shortage of protective shields that some of the health workers are facing. And so they're actually using their 3D printers in Texas, California, and Minnesota to print both reusable and disposable face shields to help out. So I think this is a fantastic way they're kind of rethinking what they can do to be able to help people out. So really great story. And as we jump to the next slide. Great, thanks. So one of the things that we've actually been doing this for years, since pretty much Field Service Lightning started about 3.5 years ago. But each week we have partner and customer implementation office hours. So these are for partners on Tuesday from 9 to 11 Pacific, on Thursday for customers from 9 to 11 Pacific. And so what we've historically done with these is we really want to provide a way that our customers and our partners can easily get in touch with us when they have questions, and also the opportunity to hear from what others are doing. And usually we have a micro topic, so we cover maybe something new in the release that's coming out for the first part. And then we have both our partners and our customers post questions in the communities with the hashtag FSL office hours. So what we're going to be doing, knowing that a lot of our customers are kind of having to rethink service as we're moving to a lot of virtual models right now, and also are just facing challenges with scaling their businesses. We're going to be pivoting both the partner and customer implementation hours this week to really focus on understanding the challenges that people are facing. How can we help them, whether it's through the product, whether it's through implementation best practices, any resources that we can be doing to help customers and partners as to really how the technology can help them maybe in ways they didn't need to use it before. So be sure to check out the communities. Both are fantastic. They're two of our most popular communities as a great way to learn more about field service. Pose your questions, join those office hours. We'd love to see you in those as well. And with that, I'll hand it over to Natasha.
Great, thanks, Beth. So when we think about Lightning Scheduler, it's really all about delivering effective and personalized appointments. And to start off, I just want to give a little bit of background as to why we created this product, why Salesforce is investing in the appointment scheduling space. And I think it really has to do with the rise of the fourth industrial revolution and how it's transformed the way we interact with one another and our expectations of our experiences with a business. And while personalization has been a key pillar in digital interactions, we weren't seeing the same personalization when customers were interacting on a personal level with a company employee. And data shows that these interactions are actually really important to building customer trust and loyalty. So Lightning Scheduler was created to bridge that gap. With the power of Salesforce behind every appointment, companies can now rest assured that everything they need to build those stronger relationships with customers by bridging the gap between digital and personal connections can be done through effective and personalized appointments. So Scheduler makes it really simple for all stakeholders, whether that's a resource within the company, a call center booking appointments on behalf of resources, or the customer themselves, to book, edit, schedule appointments across a variety of channels, like on the company website or via chat. And companies can get started and get up and running with Scheduler really quickly with a detailed guided setup assistant and out of the box flows. So I think many of us have had an experience where we've arrived for an appointment only to find that our resource wasn't available, or the person who is servicing us knows really little about us, even though we've been a longtime customer. And that just makes for a really poor customer experience. So because Scheduler is native to Salesforce, all customer information is tied to the service appointment, giving the resources the context they need for personalization. And you're also able to do things like bake in buffer times for certain appointment types, so your resources have time to adequately prepare for the appointment. And then in addition to this, as I mentioned earlier, you're able to add multiple resources to a single appointment to better serve customer needs. So an example of that could be, a customer shopping at a luxury retailer who engages in clienteling can have an appointment booked with their stylist, a tailor, and also have a fitting room booked, all within Lightning Scheduler. And empowering customers to cultivate their relationships with a company is also very important. So with inbound scheduling, companies can embed Lightning Scheduler in a community or right on their website, and out-of-the-box flows allow them to get started quickly. Or if they want to opt to customize those flows, they can leverage our APIs and clone those flows to better serve the tailored customer experience they hope to deliver. And another great thing that Scheduler helps with is capturing new customers with guest appointments. So when a customer comes onto a website and schedules an appointment and they are not an existing customer, a lead is simultaneously created in Salesforce. So that allows you to begin nurturing that relationship before the appointment even happens. And employing all of what Sales Scheduler has to offer helps you to create more consistency across your customer experience, bringing that digital personalization into your one-on-one meetings. And while there are many use cases, I'll highlight a couple really quickly here. So Minute clinics can leverage Scheduler to create virtual meetings with patients as we move more into telehealth. And auto dealerships and manufacturers can leverage asset scheduling to schedule things like test drives, or can embed Scheduler into their flows that prompt customers to come in for regularly scheduled maintenance appointments. And then, sales representatives can leverage Scheduler throughout their deal cycle to ensure that they're prompting appointments at the right time during that cycle. And so for today's webinar, we're pivoting a little bit from our usual customer story just to highlight what we've been encountering quite a bit from our customers over the last couple of weeks as everyone's been transitioning to virtual only meetings. So I'd like to illustrate some of our suggestions and best practices that we've been, divulging to customers as they begin to navigate this new normal. So if you could go to the next slide. So to set the stage, let's talk about a fictional bank. Cumulus Bank is a financial institution that has recently required all employees to work from home and has closed their branches. So rather than funneling all customer calls and appointment requests through a call center, Cumulus knows it's important to continue building those relationships that they built in person with their existing customers. So our suggestion is to keep their scheduling flows as is, but making phone and web conference appointment types the only ones that are available. So let's say a customer, Rachel, has questions for her financial advisor and goes onto the Cumulus website and unfortunately finds that their branches have been closed. She does see that virtual appointments are available, and she can schedule that via chat. So with the chatbot, you can either set up these canned options for customers, or it can recognize natural language and help the customer schedule that way. So when she opts for a web conference, she'll get an email confirmation with the link to the web conference, and her financial advisor sees this reflected on his calendar immediately as well. He's met with Rachel before, and he now has the opportunity to continue building trust in that relationship, even though things are a little bit different right now. And because the purpose of this meeting was financial advising, an automatic 15 minutes are blocked before the meeting on Justin's calendar to allow him to review Rachel's portfolio in preparation for the meeting. And this is really where the power of Salesforce comes into play to empower him to deliver an effective and personalized appointment. So rather than spending the first 15 minutes of the meeting getting up to speed and reviewing Rachel's account, he can spend their full meeting building that relationship with her. And with that, I will pass it back to our friends at Magnet 360.
Thank you so much, Natasha and Beth, for those wonderful overviews of Field Service Lightning and Lightning Scheduler, talking about all those important customer stories, use cases, and general information about the products. So now we will switch over to a couple customer stories from Magnet 360. These are actual, real customers that we worked with. And I'll hand things over to Hans Nelson, who was our lead consultant and led the implementations of both of these products in these two different customer stories.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Alex. And thank you, Beth and Natasha, for setting the stage as well. I'm going to go over two of our customer success stories here. And they're both health services providers that do telehealth and are able to provide their health services remotely. I'll admit when I picked these stories, it was just because I worked on them. I didn't know how relevant they may become, but I think it's good that we're able to talk about them today. So our first client here used Lightning Scheduler. Our client was looking for a better way for their coaches to service a high volume of phone-based health requests. So people call in and try and get some service from a coach. Typically, the first interaction comes through a custom web portal, but they kind of found that when looking at their systems that they had, a lot of information was being lost. There was appointment information that was being buried. Let's say, for example, people's health information was actually just stored in Word documents or in Excel spreadsheets, right? So when we think about those type of situations, obviously, products like Health Cloud, products like Lightning Scheduler really bring some benefit. So we implemented Health Cloud and Lightning Scheduler to provide their coaches with a unified platform to provide holistic coaching to members. This particular client doesn't just focus on any one aspect of healthcare. When you call in, you may initially call in because you have, let's say, high blood pressure that you're trying to get advice on, or maybe you have diabetes and you want to get some, diets and some tips on how to manage your diabetes. But let's say you just casually mention that you'd like to lose 10 pounds for your daughter's wedding. They are more than happy to help you service you in that aspect. So they're really about, having that holistic view, having that one-on-one strong relationship between a coach and an individual to that point where they know you really well, they're your friend, and you're able to just call them up at any time and have a conversation with them about any health topic that you want, okay? So again, users typically just come in through a custom front end. We use the Lightning Scheduler API to actually book the appointments. But then the internal scheduling flow, the out-of-the-box flow that comes with Lightning Scheduler is super helpful for rebooking appointments quickly while you're just on the phone with that individual. It also allows them to refer out to other individuals through that flow. So in the certain case where you may be talking to me as your health coach, but I don't necessarily have the expertise to, speak to you about diabetes, I may refer you out to a registered nurse. And so in that way, Lightning Scheduler internally allows them to find the correct nurse with the correct skills and certifications that are needed to service that individual and schedule an appointment against their time. The outcomes of installing these products for this client is that the prep time for appointments is reduced, right? And that's a benefit of Health Cloud in this case, because all the contextual information is just kind of stored in that Health Cloud console. But the real benefit comes from the demand side, having those members be able to schedule appointments when they want, when it works for them, and then the internal flow allowing them to quickly reschedule appointments. Okay. So in this particular case, why did we choose Lightning Scheduler versus FSL? You don't necessarily have to delineate between the two, but given the member-driven demand for scheduling and the one-on-one nature of appointments, like Natasha mentioned, people are coming to this service. Even though it's still tele-based and you're never actually going to a branch location, conceptually, people are requesting time to speak with an individual. And when they get that appointment, they might rebook right there on the phone. But given that it's so strong that, you know, the members are always making that first initial appointment, Lightning Scheduler really makes sense for them. The other point here is that, of course, it's Salesforce, and we love Salesforce because it's API-based. And the Lightning Scheduler API provides a really clean structure for skills-based matching from a custom web portal. I will mention that Lightning Scheduler also has a flow that you can embed in your community that's native to Salesforce. This particular client isn't using a Salesforce community at the moment, so they just have a custom web portal. So we just leverage the API instead of using the native community component, but you certainly could do that as well if you guys have Salesforce communities. So the next client is also a health services provider, as I mentioned before, but this particular client is using FSL. So this client specializes in weight loss programs, and their weight loss coaches relied on antiquated legacy systems while trying to help as many people as possible on a daily basis. They actually have classroom settings where a coach would service like 30 individuals at a time via a video chat. So when the parent company took over this program, you know, they liked some of the capabilities of their video chat tools and things like that, but they noticed that the system they were using just was not allowing them to efficiently schedule, capture information, kind of the same problems that our other client had. So in this case, we implemented Health Cloud and FSL to provide coaches with a platform to run those video coaching sessions with their members. And that was like a whole nother integration with Sendbird and things like that. If you have particular stories about this question, I did about this client and all of the custom stuff here, because there's more than just FSL and Health Cloud, but we can talk about that. You can email us, because I did present on this at Dreamforce, so we do have some customer a little bit more in depth on this particular solution. But the FSL piece is really key for them, because they have the concept of a demand manager, a person that actually goes out and schedules these classroom sessions, right? And then in this case, again, like Natasha mentioned, the service is being taken to these individuals. These classrooms are being, you know, set up for these individuals, and then they attend the class from home. So we're able to use the FSL Gantt to schedule basically out 50 sessions just by simply dragging one appointment onto a resource, and that allows them to have all of their weight loss classes scheduled for the rest of the year. It's a very consistent experience for the users as well, like the members who attend the classes, because that class is same day, same time, every week. There's always a link associated with it to that video chat and all the wonderful things that we talked about with that holistic customer experience and being able to deliver that. It all comes packaged neatly for them. If there's ever a situation where they need to substitute a teacher and things like that, again, using the Gantt, they can reschedule all of the classes, just one of them. So FSL and the extensibility of the data model, because we had the concept of classrooms and things like that, was really a great solution for them. So if we had to evaluate the reasons why we picked FSL over Lightning Scheduler, because at the time when we implemented this, Lightning Scheduler didn't exist. And again, you don't have to pick one or the other. But the complex and diverse scheduling requirements, as well as the concept of the demand manager, meaning like there's one person who actually sits there, schedules out these appointments, led us to kind of select FSL. Demand managers within this organization heavily utilize the Gantt to drive the scheduling of coaches and classroom times. Like their entire job is driven off the Gantt. They go in there, they, you know, service PTO requests, things like that. Their entire job is moving appointments around. And so the Gantt is a really helpful tool to allow them to do that. And then the need for scheduling, rescheduling, and adjusting 50+ classes at a time, sending out emails and things like that, really fit the capabilities of FSL service appointments and work orders, because we were able to create 50+ at a time, you know, adjust them all. That was a custom implementation, but the extensibility again of the FSL data model and being able to build custom things on top of it, there's just a lot you can really unlock with that. So again, you know, kind of comparing the two, we have one case where it's very demand driven. Members are reaching out when they want to have a call with an individual, and they choose Lightning Scheduler for that. And then we have a bit more of a supply side saying, I'm going to open up this classroom. You can register for it and attend this class whenever you'd like, but I'm still controlling when and where that classroom is taking place. You might use an FSL in a healthcare scenario.
Thanks so much, Hans. That was great. Fantastic stories we're really proud of. So last piece of the webinar, we will hand it over to Adam Norder, who is our delivery leader for Field Service Lightning at Magna 360. And Adam will take us through just a couple more quick customer stories where we implemented Field Service Lightning. And this is to give you all another flavor of just different types of use cases in companies that have used FSL, along with a couple quick starts that Magna 360 has engaged with our customers on. And quick starts are, you know, for us, small service packages that allow us to, well, get started quickly with a customer. So we'll take you through a couple of those before we close up and open for questions. Adam?
Absolutely. So our first customer here is ViewGlass, and what they do is they install and service smart glass on buildings. It'll auto tint and everything for you to control light coming in. And they're in high growth mode, and what that really created is a lot of disparate processes. People are kind of running in separate directions with the massive growth. And one of the pieces that they were really lacking was the inventory control piece and automation from the contact center to their field service technicians, which they call engineers. And as we've kind of talked about throughout the webinar, when you have an inventory based case, you do need to use FSL. So for these guys, we put forth several different guided flows to support our mobile users in the field to help them better process the work orders. We put forth that inventory management solution, which allows them to request different products and parts that they need in the field, as well as track their personal inventory, often referred to as like van stock or truck stock, and then also do RMAs and have an actual return process for any, you know, warranty or out of warranty parts that needed to go back to their central warehouse. And all this together for them is really kind of put them on a unified platform to have better customer service, scale with their growth, and have a, you know, a consistent experience both back in the call center and out in the field. And really that visibility piece that kind of everybody's been talking about, right? Same data in the contact center is what's available to the field service technician in the field. So when that field tech arrives, they know your service history, they know about you, they understand your challenges, they know exactly which windows in the building are experiencing the issues, and they don't have to waste a whole lot of time and get right to work. Go to the next customer story, please. Excellent. So MSC had two different business teams. They are distributor of different parts and products for warehouses. So it's everything from nuts and bolts to safety glasses and that type of thing. And they had two different business units which came through an acquisition, and they needed to look at how do we bring these two teams together. And what they used is Salesforce to bring those teams together, and brought them together on Field Service Lightning as well as Service Cloud. So that consolidation was going to be key to their continued growth and success for their customers. So what we put forth for these guys is, again, use the FSL mobile app to really have a consistent user experience in the field for their technicians, which they are out and checking on the parts in the field and doing restocking and those types of activities. So they're able to go through and do a different checklist to say what they did and get customer signatures. And then one of the most exciting pieces for these guys that we were able to do is use Field Service Lightning's optimization engine. So we talked a little bit about optimization. What optimization here is really about the rearranging of those appointments to be in the best possible order, because they have thousands of appointments with 500 to 700 people in the field every day. And for them, it was really about getting a consistent pattern. They see their customers Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, but the time in the day could vary. You know, I don't need to see you necessarily every day at 8 a.m. I could see you at 4 p.m. on Tuesday sometimes. So with the help of global optimization from Salesforce and a bit of a custom piece we put in to create these recurring work orders, we're able to create a scheduling solution that very well aligned with some of their current business processes and in the way they do customer service today. Next slide. All right, excellent. So our quick start is a service package which really just looks to get you up and running quickly, right? We can help set up the basics and get you out the door. It can be a POC for, say, a larger organization, or for a smaller organization, it may be a mini implementation which gets you started in your initial phase, and you will continue to advance and enhance that type of solution over time. And as we talk about here, just typically 6 weeks, kind of hands-on, immediate value for your business. And then our other important service package I just want to touch on is the health assessment. And we also do have a blog on this on our website to check this out as well. But how we look at this is, you know, maybe you're a company that has implemented FSL already, or you're a company, you know, that got it a long time ago, has been using it, it's been working good, but you want to take it to the next level. You want to see where it can go next. You want to see a roadmap. So we can help you define those types of things and build that out with us.
Thanks so much, Adam. That was great. Appreciate you sharing those stories and those different service packages with everyone. All right, so we have a bit of time for Q&A right now. Let's see if anyone wants to submit questions. We'll give you a minute to do so. The questions can be on any of the customer stories that you've heard about, any product questions for Beth or Natasha, you know, the future of either of these products, really anything at all. Let's start off with one of the questions we have. We can ask both Beth and Natasha. So can we ask, I think it would be super helpful to understand a use case where either of these tools might be able to be used. It can either be a specific one or a generic use case where either tool could be used, and what are some of the reasons that you might select one tool or the other in that use case?
Yeah, I think a good example of that could be around on-site work. So as Natasha and I were talking in the beginning of the webinar, oftentimes you can start to think of field service lightning more as I have mobile workers going out into the field, and lightning scheduler is more for that appointment booking where someone's going on site, or as Natasha was talking about, those virtual appointments. Where we start to lean towards FSL when you have that on-site work, a good example would be, say, a bike repair type of situation where there's going to be a work order associated with the job. You're going to need to status the repair, consume parts, record the labor. When you start to think of incorporating that whole work order management component with the on-site work, you're going to want to start to consider FSL and look at, especially because of the inventory, and we touched on that with one of the customer stories, that starts to point out, okay, the job is on site, but because it has inventory, because it has this work order, I'm going to want to look at FSL as the potential solution here.
Thanks so much, Beth. And Alicia, I think I might be having a little bit of trouble seeing some of the questions that are being submitted. So if there's a couple in there already, would you mind just jumping in and relaying the questions to the team?
Yes, for sure. We do have one here that says, does Lightning Scheduler directly integrate with any web conferencing systems like Hangout, Zoom, etc.?
Sure. So in terms of a direct integration, no. However, the APIs can be leveraged to include web conferencing and connect those web conferencing platforms to Lightning Scheduler.
Thanks, Natasha. Alicia, any other questions that were submitted?
We do have a couple asking if we're going to share the slides after, and the email you registered for this with, we will send out the recording, so you will all have access to this pre-zo.
Awesome. Cool. We'll give you guys another 30 seconds to submit any final questions while we wrap up. If you have any questions or want to get in touch at all, there's a couple email addresses here, and you can email either of them. If you'd like to get in touch with Beth or Natasha, we can certainly facilitate that as well. And before we say thank you, Alicia, any other final questions that came in?
Let's see. There is one more here that says, can we have both FSL and Lightning Scheduler in one org?
For that, yes, you can have FSL and Lightning Scheduler in one org. This is where you really want to talk through the use case with, say, a partner like Magnet and understand how you're going to be wanting to use the two. One thing in particular, we talked with FSL, you have your Gantt chart. And with the Lightning Scheduler, you're not going to have visibility to those appointments on the Gantt chart. So you want to think about which resources are you scheduling with what solution and what is the use case around that. While of course they can now be in the same org, you just want to be sure and understand the visibility you need into the different appointments and how you're going to be using them to determine which solution is going to be the right fit. Natasha, anything you want to add on to that?
I think you've covered it pretty much. Essentially, if there's going to be overlap between the two, that's definitely something you want to talk to someone like Magnet 360 about. But if it's servicing separate lines of business, then that could potentially be a use case where both can be used in the same org.
All right, thanks so much, guys. Well, with that, we'll wrap up. Say a final thank you to our wonderful Salesforce guests, Natasha and Beth. Thanks so much for taking part in this and making this an awesome webinar. We hope that it was informative to everyone who attended. Thank you all for your time and attention this morning. We really appreciate it.